One curious thing falling into this on our last visit, I took a magnetic field indicator and went all around with it in my hand. And when I got into the King's chamber, there's a metal plate in the floor.
Whoa.
That is, it looks like granite. It's been like coated to where it looks like the granite, but it's a metal plate. Feels like granite, but it's metal.
Wow.
That is the first I've heard
so
of that.
I have no idea where that goes. And I asked people there that should know, and they said, "What are you talking about?" And took it and showed it. And they're like, I've been here for years and I've never seen that.
Wow.
So
how big are we talking?
Probably big enough to get a man through it, for sure. Like 36 inches square.
Holy crap.
It may have been more of a rectangle. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but plate in the floor to cover something. I mean, if you want to seal an entrance and you don't have anything, the only way you're going to get in there with something to seal it without a lot of effort is to bring in a plate, put it in that location.
That's really interesting. That is strange. Is it where is it located? Is it near one of the walls or is it in the center?
It would be, let's see, that would be north. I lose orientation. It's on the north side of the coffer, the narrow end.
Oh, okay.
Of the coffer.
Wow.
Right in the floor.
That's crazy. Yep, we got to get one of those
That's
tools.
what I thought. That's like, whoa, I actually found something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go back and look at old pictures that were taken, any time before the 1980s, there was a hole there. And that hole was still there when I was, back in the early 90s when I was there a couple times. That hole was still, they had just an iron grate over it. They've used just a cosmetic cleanup, but that hole's well known. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I was there when I was in there in 1986.
So is it just they pulled a floor block out or something, and is that what it was for?
So you propose it's to stop twisting ankles?
Probably.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a tunnel; it was just a hole.
Feed the conspiracy theories about.
Yeah, come on, guys.
That's right.
I want conspiracies here. We're not here for facts.
Okay.
I didn't see any hinges. That's for sure.
Yeah. But
so where do we go now? I think Robert's got some exciting information. A lot of the new information that has been broadcast and is publicly known is all very exciting. But there's other research that has been continuing since 1987 that is equally exciting, and Robert has been engaged with a NASA engineer, and I'm not sure how much he can talk about. Well, it's public knowledge. It's out on the internet, right?
Very little.
Very little of it, but hey, Robert, do you want to
take the floor?
Discuss that. Before we do that, as you had mentioned while you were going through my book, that I had contacted Robert back in 1997 when I was preparing my manuscript for publication, just to check on a few things, and we talked about acoustics, and he was recommended to me to talk to because he had a lot of experience with acoustics. He also had experience with Egypt, and like me, is a bit of a nerd. So anyway, so it was a really fruitful conversation we had back then. I met him after that at a conference, and we hit it off really well. But in 2016, as I pondered on, I've been asked, when are you going to update your book? You need to write another book. When are you going to update it? And as I thought about that question, I thought about what some of the weaknesses were, and I came to the conclusion that the acoustics acoustic aspects of the Giza power plant needed to be fleshed out a little more. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out again to Robert, and the rest is history. But it was a very exciting period of time that we spent together in Egypt, and also in his studio, him coming over to Danville, all things pyramidical. Pyramidiate. So anyway, and then he started to dig into some other research, which is absolutely blowing my mind, and has enormous significance in the function of the Great Pyramid. So, hey, Robert, take it away, man.
Okay. I think maybe the easiest place to start on this one would be an observation that Chris made in the book, where he said that the pyramid is acoustically coupled to the earth. Mm-hmm. You guys picked that part up, right?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Well, I did. I don't know about the other three.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got it.
You put them to sleep with your last diatribe.
No, we're here. You guys can hear us, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this idea that it's acoustically coupled, let's break this into a couple of pieces. One piece is to look at the chambers and the corridors as a tuned resonant chamber, as a system, as a complex system. If you look at the work of Danley, he looked at the King's Chamber, made some speculations about the upper chambers, but doesn't really go into detail about anything else. There's been a few other people that have taken a look at this little piece or that little piece, and they make a big show about it. The thought occurs to me that what we need to do is look at this thing as a system, if Chris is right. It's systems thinking. One of the ways I approached that was to look at, say, let's take the ascending corridor for a minute. Is that a corridor, or is that a 120-foot long, more or less, organ pipe?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is that an analogy that we can use? And if you start looking at it that way, you can calculate what the expected resonant frequency is from its dimensions.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot that goes into that. End tone correction, it's a square pipe versus a round pipe. It's closed on one end because of the blocks, so that changes your harmonic structures, yada, yada, yada. That seems to be a little more detail than we need to go into. But when you run the numbers on that, you find out that thing's resonating at infrasonic frequencies.
Huh.
Okay.
Okay, it's a couple octaves below what we can hear, probably somewhere down around 5.2, 5.5 hertz.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, we're listening. Can you guys hear us okay?
You're cutting in and out on my end.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Fascinating. Keep going.
Keep going. We're listening. It's great.
Okay.
The infrasonic's important, the 5 hertz. Keep going, Robert.
Okay.
So, and then as you look at other parts of the pyramid, when you're looking at it from the acoustics point of view, one of the first things you want to look at is parallel wall surfaces. I noticed you two guys play musical instruments. Do you gig?
Yes, sir.
We do.
Okay, so you've ran into something called feedback.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't like parallel wall surfaces.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so this makes complete sense then.
Yeah.
Parallel wall surfaces and resonant frequencies that come out of that. So in acoustics, one of the first things you want to do is you want to identify those. Mm-hmm. And there's various ways to do it. And if you look at just the dimensions of, say, the King's Chamber, for example, roughly 17.2 by 34.4, that's an octave. Twice the distance is an octave lower.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're emphasizing a certain frequency there. And it turns out that the height is also related to that. If you do a little bit of crunching on the numbers, you find out that that's related to a Pythagorean triangle, and that it's half the distance of the diagonal of the floor.
Wow.
To within probably a couple tenths of an inch. So what I see is that that they're working with trying to emphasize certain frequencies and remove others, depending on which part of the pyramid that we're looking at. In other words, they're trying to create a very specific acoustic environment.
Yeah. A chord.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you explain your pressure wave diagram?
Okay.
It's hard.
All right.
If you guys have
If
graphics,
we look at it from a pressure wave point of view, let's go to the Grand Gallery for a second and pick up on Chris's resonator idea.
okay.
The only parallel wall surfaces in the Grand Gallery are side to side in the corbels that lead up to the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought occurred to me that let's calculate out, because the measurements are only partially known, or at least partially published. Let's put it that way, on what those frequencies are, and it seemed to me that would give us an idea of what frequencies Chris's resonators would be working at. It turns out that there's 7 of those levels, and they're all tuned to within an octave. So it's 7 notes within an octave.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because the channel in the bottom and the roof are the same dimensions. And the width from wall to wall is twice that. So we're dealing with an octave here. So once again, a very specific audio environment is being created in there. So the pressure then builds up in certain parts of the pyramid as these resonance waves go. If you have your nodes and antinodes, and as you get those different frequencies building, the pressures can be quite impressive in a big hurry in a resonant structure.
Right.
If you guys have ever stood in front of a Marshall stack, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you're kind of talking about the idea of standing waveforms in these areas, and the pressure side of the wave is basically like once you amplify it to a certain extent, you can get that pressure side way up there.
Way up there.
Right.
Obviously, and then your rarefaction on the other side would be equally, strong.
Yeah. So, Eric, you wanted to chime in?
Well, I want to emphasize it. It was something that was just, oh my God, this is so amazing. The pressure waves in the King's Chamber specifically align with each line of blocks as they're stacked. All the way to the top.
Wow.
Like the pressure waves are specifically falling on those stones to resonate them.
So wait a second. The nodal lines, like where are following the joints.
Yeah, the pressure point. If I'm saying it right, the waves that are created, the standing waves,
right,
line up exactly with the way the stones are stacked.
With the courses
That's
of blocks.
amazing.
So that all of those stones are by the sound that's being created.
Wow.
That's freaking awesome.
Another
How do you
thing I
build
didn't
like
know.
that? How do you build something like that? How would you know to build it that way? You'd have to.
My point is they knew what they were doing, and we're in maybe first or second grade trying to back engineer it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, so wouldn't you? I mean, this
Good way to put it.
this goes back again to the idea of like modeling in a computer in a program where you can actually run these models and say, well, where would the nodal lines be? Okay, this is where the joints in the stone need to be. Therefore,
Right. Well, that's what I did. That's what I did, and that's what I showed Eric. Those modeling programs are accessible. I have one, and I ran the modeling program. It's a lot more complicated than I want to try and go in here, okay? People want to try and reduce everything to one number, and it defies that,
yeah,
okay? The pyramid's much more complex than one number,
I'm just
okay?
yeah.
It's many sciences coming together. I mean, you can pick an area, and that's whole different science.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, which is a great segue for me. Thank you, Eric, because that brings us to part 2. Once we have this resonating complex of chambers and corridors up in the upper part of the pyramid, that brings us to the coupled to the Earth observation that Chris was talking about. And this is where some of the really current work that I'm working on right now and that Chris is saying is opening up some interesting ideas. I noticed you guys seem to be aware of the piezo theories of let's vibrate things and the piezo will sit there and generate an electric field.
Right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it turns out that we had a geologist with us on a tour a couple of years ago that looked at me and said, there's not enough piezo in there to really make much of a difference. And in order for it to really generate a field, it needs all the acoustic waves would have to hit it on axis. And the fact that it's natural granite means that all of the axis is essentially random. And you're not really going to get any significant currents or anything because there just isn't enough of it up there. Well, I go, okay, well, thanks for shooting my theory to little pieces. And that led me off into an idea of, well, is there some other mechanism that's at work here that maybe we don't know about? And that ran me into the work of a Dr. Friedemann Freund, who was out at NASA working with the Geocosmo and was studying granite and other igneous rocks. And he discovered that if you crunch them, i.e. put them in a hydraulic press, and start pushing on them, that they generate a current. And this is what's the theory of what's underneath earthquake lights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, ball lightning and such.
Yeah.
Yeah, ball lightning, earthquake lights, and all of that. So fast forwarding a little bit, I've been working with him and talking with him now for a little over a year. And so we're looking at this mechanism of vibrating the rocks and having it breaks the bonds that are down inside at the quantum energy levels in very specific. It only pretty much works in igneous rocks. That's where it works best. And without getting too technical about it, how much do we have to make them move in order to break those bonds? It turns out it's angstroms. And
barely move.
Yeah, so
and then the second question is how much force do we have to apply to those, approximately 60-ton pieces of granite that are up there in the upper chambers? How much force do we need to do that? It turns out a foot stomp or a hand hit is plenty, according to laboratory analysis on granites and gabbros and things like that since the 1980s that NASA's been doing.
Remember earlier I said, hold on, remember this, infrasonics and 5 hertz.
Right.
How that plays
in. That's the hand, the foot stomp, the 5 hertz.
It turns out that in the earthquake's lights, in the frequency that they're finding that is triggering the electrical effect in the rock, and we're not talking just about the King's Chamber rock, but every stone in the pyramid is adding to it. It's happening around 5 hertz. That's the peak electricity.
Oh, okay. I can't resist saying this, but I've got to. If you hit it too hard, it will really hurt.
5 hertz.
It'll hurt.
It'll hurt a lot more than 5.
A lot more than 5 if you hit it.
Well, it could be that we're the same. Another expression of this same idea is the so-called ringing or fallen obelisk at Karnak.
Yes.
Where there's a piece of one of the obelisks that fell over, and it's a 5-6 foot square, maybe about a little over 20 feet long, and it's sitting on its side. And if you go on a tour to Egypt, one of the very common things to do is for your tour guide to get everybody gathered around this piece of granite that's about half the size of a school bus, if you were to chop it, horizontally. And if you hit the end of that with your fist, other than your knuckles going crunch, would you expect and saying ouch, would you expect to hear any other sound?
Not normally, but I have seen videos of them ringing that thing, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's it. It rings like a bell.
Yes.
When I told that to the NASA guys, they looked at me and said, "Well, of course."
Ah.
That's the only place I've ever found anybody that doesn't go to New Age woo-woo or some all sorts of other explanations. And the only place I have found a physical explanation for why that's happening. And all of this ties into Chris's ideas that if we look at the geology that's underneath Giza, it fits the model of these earthquake lights guys that are working out there at the NASA Geocosmo units and other places. It ties in exactly with what they're doing. There's basalt dikes, which are intrusions of magma that have solidified and become a basalt shaft. You get the seismic energy underneath going, and there's earthquake faults all over that area. And as it vibrates, then it creates these charges. These charges hit this basalt, go shooting up to the high point. They're searching for the high point of the local topography, and then it releases the energy. And
in the earth directly under the pyramid are these dikes. They're like electrical conductors, provided by the earth right up underneath.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that would pull the energy up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the largest dike systems on the planet. It's called the Cairo mega system. It goes from east of Cairo, almost halfway to the Red Sea, all the way out to the Bahariya Oasis. It's one of the largest basalt systems on the planet. And Giza's built right at the top of it. There's like 5 points in the model, and Giza's a poster child all the way down the line.
Wow. So the quote-unquote primordial mound that is underneath the pyramid could be even the precipice of that, right?
It's perfect.
It fits the model.
That's amazing.
That is.
I'm going to have to pull that up on my book of geologic terms.
Look at Bosworth's paper on the Cairo mega systems back in 2004.
Okay.
That'll be your best source. That's available on the internet.
Wow.
So it turns out, and I really hate to say this in public, but maybe Chris was right.
I think he's very right.
I love to hear you say that.
But again, this is,
and there's more.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, just tell me more. I'll stop. I'll stop talking.
Can I jump in, Robert?
Go for it.
So, in spending some time with Robert and learning what he had discovered as the resonant frequencies of the chambers and their relative volume, I came back from the trip thinking, wow, my mind's blown already, and what am I going to do with this? And I come back to Rolls-Royce and I show it to some senior level guys in thermal management. Their jaw drops open and say, "What are you doing next week?" "What do you mean?" "You need to go to Purdue University." Like the next week, I get back, I sit down and I watch a presentation on thermoacoustic engines, and I'm about to fall out of my chair because all the frequencies line up, especially the 5 hertz.
Wow.
And that focus of the 5 hertz, I think the most important part of the pyramid is the antechamber. It's focused at that location. And in a thermoacoustic engine, like I said, you have the relative volumes. The King's chamber is the hot section. The Grand Gallery is the cooling section. So you have hot and cold on either side of the antechamber. And as we look at what we do know, at least about the antechamber, it has vertical slots.
Mm-hmm.
And a thermoacoustic engine uses plates in what they call a stack, but it's not literally stacked. It's vertical, actually. They're more like side louvers. in this location of the antechamber, the frequency is right, the relative size is right, and the orientation of the slots is right for plates. I think they would have been copper or some type of metal that got taken out of there because it was precious.
Right.
And those plates would have caused your thermoacoustic effect. You get the proper temperatures on either side, and you get a phase change from liquid gas, liquid gas, liquid gas.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens when the temperatures are just right and the pressures are just right. It happens at 5 hertz.
Wow. Can you give us like a brief sort of overview description of what you're talking, a thermal acoustic engine?
Yeah, so you have let's build it as a stack that's completely vertical. You have a small chamber at the top that you need it to get hot, relatively small compared to a large chamber which is tuned underneath where your stack is in between. So you have a hot chamber, relatively small, the stack. I'm going from top to bottom. Hot chamber, the stack, and then the resonant chamber. It's a cold section. Then below that, often we have a longer tube, and at the end, some type of an adjustment to set the tuning, which could also explain the granite plugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And at the location in this stack where you want to put an accumulator to control the pressure in the large resonator, which would be the grand gallery, the Queen's chamber is in the perfect spot, and it's got the right distance of chamber to connect and maintain a resonance in the grand gallery. And usually we also provide the working gas at the location of the Queen's chamber, which we'd call an accumulator. So if I run through the names that we've got, the King's chamber is a hot section. The antechamber is the stack, what you'd call it. The grand gallery is the main resonator and cooling chamber. The sending passage and with the granite plugs is the acoustic adjustment to tune the machine. Queen's chamber is a accumulator where you want to input your gas, and the horizontal passage is tuned to make sure the whole system can react. And a curious thing, I was explained the machine. I have an example of a machine that exactly fits what we've got here. And the student, it was a graduate student, had no idea what this was. She explained everything. I said, "Is that it?" And she said, "Oh, I forgot one thing. To get this system going, I have to hit it on the bottom with a hammer," which the subterranean chamber is explained by John Cadman as being a hammering device.
I have seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the idea of water.
And when we had our
basically,
geologist there, I was a little stunned. He said, I see how it could work as a water hammer, but I don't see a lot of erosion like it was used continuously. And I had left puzzled with that. So I asked her, "How many times you got to hit it to get it running?" "Oh, just once."
Just one time.
Just once.
That's right.
So the subchamber didn't have to continuously run. It just got the system up and going and took off.
Wow.
I think this opens up a good place here. One of the things that Chris has been adamant about since I've known him is the need for an interdisciplinary approach. That there's no way that one person in one discipline can look at this thing and say, "I figured it out."
Right.
Anybody that's done that, their mental capabilities are way beyond mine, and I can't even picture it. I agree with Chris on this point. So he's working on trying to put together a team that has, or a network that has all sorts of specialties that we can bring to bear on this thing and says, "Does this make sense from your point of view? Or does this Or some other point of view, like the geologist that looked at me and said, well, your piezo theories are interesting, but it won't work. Okay. So then I had to go find another idea. And I think he's really right about that. And I think that's one of the strengths of his work, if I can stroke him a little bit here, that, yeah, that seems to be what we're trying to do, and maybe we're getting someplace.
I think so.
Yeah, there's several people. We could go through a list that help us. Everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. The thermoacoustic, I need to mention Danny Kerr, Tesla Pyramids website. He's helped in discovery and supporting that it's thermoacoustic engine.
Well, if you guys need podcasters on your team,
and then
just
as far
let us
as
know.
the entire plateau in resonance, it's funny. Doug Keenan, he only lives 15 minutes from me. You know, why?
The plateau itself?
Yeah, Doug, and he's got a website, Big Star Map.
Big Sky Map, isn't it?
Big Sky Map, yeah, I'm sorry. And he's looking at the distances, if we're talking about sympathetic resonance to the Earth in the dimension of the Great Pyramid. That was mentioned, I think, your episode 3 or so. You were looking at the book, and Chris notes that the physical dimension matches a fraction of the Earth, which means it's in sympathetic resonance to the Earth.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
if you then look at all the sites, the distance of other pyramids in the Giza area from the Great Pyramid, if you think of the Great Pyramid as the signal generator, their relative distances, Doug Keenan has found out that the relative distance and their relative size responds sympathetically also to the Great Pyramid.
Wow. So let me get, so you get the Great Pyramid going, and then you can build at these other sites and draw off of that, or just get those pyramids going as well? Like, are they each one a generator or focus?
As Robert has explained, because of their shape, because of the stone within, the proxy bonds, earthquake lights, they're going to be generating a higher voltage at the point.
Okay.
How they played in, we haven't had time to study yet.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
See, I had imagined that too. That if you look at the surface of the planet, like a Chladni plate, for example, like cymatic resonance.
Right. Yeah.
Then
Exactly.
you could follow these nodal lines and say build your pyramid in the middle of this resonant area.
Yeah.
As opposed to on a nodal line.
A couple of comments on that. One is that as you're looking at the geography, let's look at the definition of a sacred place for a second. Maybe the place is sacred because there are energies that are building up there. They knew it, and therefore the building was built there. It isn't sacred because the building is there. Mm-hmm. That's why they put the building there.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they knew about the energy buildups and this and that. On a relatively side note, on a more speculative but interesting one, you guys are familiar with Richard Hoagland's work on circumscribed tetrahedral geometry?
I'm familiar with Hoagland. I don't remember that specific work, so give us a short rundown there.
He noticed that the great red spot on Jupiter is at a very specific location. It's 19.5 degrees north latitude. And as he looked across the planets, and including Earth, he noticed that 19.5 kept showing up in various places. On Earth, it would be Mauna Kea, where you have a constant upwelling of energy, and as the plates go across it, you have the Hawaiian island string.
Okay.
You also see that on Mars, Olympic Mons, and this and that. And he was writing about this back in the early 1990s was when he was doing most of his work on this. If you project that onto a sphere, you come up with a certain geometry, and that's his circumscribed tetrahedral geometry. One of the ways to work with that's interesting is to say that if we're vibrating and resonating within a sphere, then you would expect harmonics to build. And from an acoustics point of view, anytime you're looking for harmonics, one of the first places to look is where's the dominant fifth. That seems to carry a lot of energy.
Right.
Well, it turns out if you do the math on that, that would be slightly under 20, 29, 30 degrees, right, just under 30. 29.25 would be your mathematical most likely place to look. And Giza's just under 30 degrees.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
And if you look at the sun, you have the butterfly charts where your sunspot activities starts just under 30 degrees, and then they get closer and closer to the equator, and then the sun flips poles and it starts over again, just under 30 degrees. It would seem that maybe Hoagland's assertion is that maybe this is trying to tell us something about physics that we don't understand yet. But if he's right, Giza falls into that pattern as well.
Okay, so it's put into the right place for that pattern as well. Ah, that makes sense. Wow.
I love it. Tell us more.
Keep going.
And there's more.
Oh, one other thing I'd like to add that Chris was, as we're looking at, is not only just the seismic energy of all of the earthquake faults and everything running around. Another major contributor is probably ocean waves, which are just continuously lapping up against land masses and creating these vibrations that bounce all over the earth.
And they all pass through that point.
And this seems to be tuned to resonate with those frequencies and pick it up.
Wow, and that comes back to the moon as well. It's like Chris said in the book, as long as the moon is orbiting the Earth, all of these resonations will continue to happen. So it's like a free lunch, basically.
That's it. With the one point to maybe drive home, we're not talking a Tesla electromagnetic resonance here.
It's mechanical.
Okay, we're talking
acoustical.
acoustic resonance.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That's my thing. I love that.
Yeah, that's Kyle's deal.
I'm into that.
Getting feedback, huh?
Yes. I'm into turning Ty's feedback down.
Yeah. The lead guitarist. Yeah.
That reminded me, there's one other little thing that I'm finding in the King's Chamber specifically. And that is that some of the dimensions and some of the resonant frequencies that I've measured in there appear to be beat frequencies.
Ah.
You guys are familiar with beat frequencies?
Yeah, harmonic beat frequencies, yeah.
Yes, harmonic tuning on your guitar, exactly. So to the people that don't know this, I think the easiest way to explain this is that if you take two notes sufficiently far apart from each other, they form a chord. If you get closer and closer and closer with those frequencies, all of a sudden it starts to beat. It almost sounds like a thumping drum.
Yeah.
You only have, and so it's actually hammering. It's creating a pressure wave that's beating. There's beat frequencies in there too.
Yeah.
That helps us get to the infrasonics.
Yeah. So are the beat frequencies are audible?
They're infrasonic.
Okay.
Okay. But I mean,
They're down around that 4.5, 5 hertz
okay.
range also.
And these are going to
You can
help
feel it.
These are going to help generate these are going to help the piezoelectrics go generate the microwave frequencies. Is that the idea?
No, it's not the piezo.
Okay.
There isn't. I don't think there's enough of it in there to be significant the way that most people want to drive it.
All right.
What's underneath this is the actual chemical construction within the igneous rock, specifically the Aswan granite itself.
I do believe, though, Robert, it helps get it started, because if you analyze the amount of ionization needed for hydrogen to make it electrically conductive, it's only 1%.
Okay.
So the amount, even the tiny amount of, it's not tiny, it's significant enough. The amount of piezo that's in the stones of the chamber are enough to excite the hydrogen to plasma state.
Wow.
Yeah.
1% ionization. And then you, I mean, it's not like it's going to stay there. then you get a ramp up of everything at once. It's like a starting circuit.
Yeah. So when we look at the Freund effect, for the lack of anything else to call it, that ionization, the ionization that occurs on the surface of the granite is enough to ionize air. So we're looking at tens of thousands of volts, if not more, that's being generated by the bonds breaking within the granite itself on certain chemical bonds. I don't want to try and get too technical here, but it also creates a situation to where they start reinforcing each other, and it's a good way to get massive amounts of energy if you have, say, a chamber tuned to an octave of itself, where you have, like the King's chamber, where you have one side that's 1 octave and then you have another octave there. You get slightly less than double the amplitude for free, just in the way the sound's bouncing around the room. So you don't have to build the pyramid's big enough, but you don't have to build huge chambers to get resonant structures that are down in these sub-audible frequencies. You can use resonance itself and beat frequencies to create those. And that seems to be what's going on.
Okay, I think I see what you're talking about.
And one thing that's clever, if it is hydrogen in there, ionized hydrogen is a superconductor for electricity.
Ah.
So that could put the northern and southern shafts serving dual purpose, their waveguides, as well as once the hydrogen would ionize in those shafts, they're also sort of forming the shortest path from the King's chamber to the surface as large conductors.
Awesome.
So what would be the distribution system? I know this is more speculative, but if they were generating energy in here, how are they distributing it?
Well, we think as wires because it's how we've grown up. But
right.
If it's transmitting to the ionosphere, you just need the shafts or the obelisks.
Okay.
And it brings it down.
Yeah, there was a very interesting art installation that was done in Bristol, England years ago. I don't remember the artist's name. But he took just a bunch of standard fluorescent tubes that you'd have in a workshop lamp. Just the long fluorescent tubes.
Yeah.
And he just stuck one end in the ground, but he did it underneath these high tension power lines. And that was enough residual energy that it lit those fluorescent tubes up. You didn't need anything else. You didn't need wires. You didn't need Tesla. You didn't need any of that. Just stick one end of the tubes in the ground.
Huh. Well, yeah, I know the Earth is a huge electron sink, so that does work.
Yep, I had an old, Archer gave me an old neon sign transformer, and I have this. Trying to remember what it's ultraviolet light bulb that was supposedly burn out, and I didn't even connect it to this neon sign thing. I just plugged the transformer in, and the light bulb in my hand lit up. I was like, okay, this light bulb still works.
There you go. It's a big neon transformer. That's a good explanation.
Yes,
Darth Vader.
That's right. I had a lightsaber.
I am your father. And now you're dead.
Oh man, well this has been great, guys. You guys have more? You want to keep going?
Well, I think we should kind of wrap it up for now. Is there anything else that you guys want? Does Archer want to weigh in and introduce anything?
I've just been along for the ride here so far. So far, you've answered most of my questions.
Yeah, I was going to say.
All right. So
I'm about to ask a question and then it gets answered.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear, Chris, that you're continuing your research on this and that you're building this team, and that is that's the most exciting news I've heard all year.
That's right.
That you guys are
It's a brand new year, so.
Well, I set out to find people. I set out to find people that were smarter than me, and
He's still looking.
Eventually, you
no, seriously. You have to, right? But I succeeded. These guys are top notch.
They are. Well,
right?
we were saying if you guys need podcasters on your team, just let us know.
Yeah.
We'll join up.
Hey, you want to go to Egypt, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've got a tour coming up in September, so maybe you should go on that one.
Oh man, we're already going to be in the Scablands in Washington during September,
well,
but
good luck with that.
maybe the next one.
Okay. Are
Yeah.
you going to be a witness at the impeachment trial? Or?
I can't talk about that.
Wrong Washington.
Yeah, no, Washington State.
Sorry about that.
Different Scablands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys fit into this podcast perfectly, I have to say. And
That night.
yeah, Robert, I wanted to say, Robert, you're the second front of house engineer we've had on here. You guys seem to be really interested in this stuff. We had Scotty Baldwin come on the show. He was Prince's front of house guy for a long time. So
Oh,
it was
okay.
yeah, great. It's been awesome talking to both of you. So I just
Yeah.
want to give Scotty a shout out. You said front of house. I was like, hey, seems to be a trend here. You guys seem to know what's going on. So
well, it's one way to get a practical understanding of what does sound do in big places.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could I mention my website before we close out?
Yes, tell everybody how to get a hold of you and how to find your work for sure, please.
Yeah. www.gizapower.com. That's GIZAPOWER. And there you will find all things weird and wonderful, lots of photographs, information about past tours and upcoming tours, but no biographical information on Robert and Eric.
Yes, I discovered that.
The truth is, he just asked us to come along and carry his luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Bring spoons.
How big are your tours?
I think somebody did that. Eric, I put him in charge of carrying my tools.
Oh, I had to rent a horse.
And we went to the Serpent. And I said, "Okay, Eric, where is my gauge?" And he said, "Oh, I forgot. I left it in the bus." And so he had to hop a camel to go back to the bus.
Fired.
I had rode the camel down to the Serpent. I wasn't riding that camel again. It was too boring.
Yeah,
I
the
got
camel.
a really nice horse, and he was ready to run, and went and got the tool and came back.
Yeah, the camel was
And then
for
we
all the
could use
tools.
it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's another
Done a lot.
story.
That was another story.
Yeah.
Murphy's second law. Murphy was an optimist.
Yep.
Lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Well, this has been excellent, guys. Maybe we can have you back on sometime because this has been awesome, and I think there's more information. So.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of information. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you could have either one of us, Robert, Eric, me individually. Your
Yes.
choice. Well, Robert, I'll give Robert your email address. Robert and Eric your email address.
Excellent.
And you can make contact that way. I will update my website with Robert and Eric's biographical information. So, actually, I do have a little bit of it there on the 2019 tour.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the 18 tour.
yeah. So, what are you complaining about then?
I was looking in the About Chris section, and I didn't see anything on them.
Chris, you do have a section.
About Chris is about Chris.
Yeah. Hey, I was just.
There's a section in there where I redid some of Chris's work when I just started.
Oh yeah, the Petri core number 7.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'll have to look at
That's
that.
that's an updated one
Is it a spiral?
Oh, yeah.
It is.
It is.
I verified.
All right, cool.
Totally. No argument. Okay, guys, it's been great. You guys are a lot of fun. I'm going to be tuning into your show from here on out. So.
Thank you.
See, I used to get props for doing Christopher Dunn impressions, and then when I found out you were listening to the show, I got scared. So I stopped doing. So
now you know you don't have to fear anything, right?
okay, yeah. Now that we know each other, I'll continue making fun of you as I always have.
If I see you coming at me with a fluorescent tube, I'll
You'll at least see him coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, an illuminating experience.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And wish all of you a good evening and a good weekend. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
See you later.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Chris Dunn and et al.
Chris Dunn et al.
Breaking news.
Yes.
I mean,
lots of breaking news.
Yeah, amazing stuff they're working on. Man, we got a lot of stuff to look into now.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoyed that. We thoroughly enjoyed it and wanted to thank Chris and his friends again for coming on. Hope to have them back soon.
Yeah.
With more updates.
My only complaint is, Chris, you're not allowed to come on this show and be funnier than the hosts. But no, it was great. When we first connected with those guys, it was obvious that they belonged on this podcast because they were hilarious. So we had a lot of laughs before the show and after, too. So it's a lot of fun. And some mind-blowing material there. Like Kyle said, breaking news.
Oh, I'm about to bone up on my waveguide technology studies.
Yeah.
In order to really ask some good questions and understand what they're working on now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and we talked about this a little bit, might get some of them on in the future separately and dive more deeply into their specific areas. Because they obviously have a lot more information that we weren't able to get through in this 2-hour show. So
yeah, especially the acoustic resonance stuff. I mean, that was just mind blowing.
Yeah,
wow.
And I want to understand more about the quantum aspect of the Piezo effect that he was talking about, and because I had some questions on that, but he kept saying let's keep it at this particular level and not go too deeply into the science of it. But I want to know. I wanted to ask things like, okay, so if bonds are being broken, are they being reformed, or can we find signs of that in these stones if we do the right tests?
Yeah.
Well, and I thought he said it wasn't exactly a Piezo response.
But he was
something
talking about
different,
how you're right. He was saying that there was not enough energy for that particular Piezo response, but he was saying that there was something happening at a deeper level.
Right.
Yeah.
You might see me in the future smashing a granite rock with a backhoe and testing it with stuff. See what
Does it ring?
I know, and I wanted to mention Ringing Rocks Park. Like, I thought of that too, and he's, I'm thinking like we've been fascinated with lithophonics for years. So, and that just even more strengthens my idea that some of those places are actually the remnants of ancient structures.
Oh, that was the thing. We forgot to ask them if they wanted to join our Pyramidiots rock band. And I mean, it seems like they've actually already formed the band, and we might have to try to join their band.
We might have to join their band. Yeah.
We're just groupie status.
Yeah. Well, I'll play the trumpet. So yeah,
Megalithica.
Yeah, well, we already have a front of house engineer.
That's right.
I mean, we're good to go.
Well, technically, you got two.
Yeah, we got two front of house engineers. Like, this is serious here. I guess Scotty can run the monitors because he's really good at that, he says. All right. Don't forget to check Chris's website. He gave it out, but I'm going to give it out again here. It's, let me make sure I got it right. It's GizaPowerPlant.com, I'm pretty sure. GizaPower.com, yeah. So here it is, GizaPower.com. So he is doing tours, and they're going to Egypt and looking at this stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, and we certainly are, go to his website, and you can get information about the tours and learn how to sign up. So I would definitely recommend that. And, of course, he's got a bunch of other material on here. Articles, all of his old articles and newer ones, activities, links. So check it out, GizaPower.com. And you can get a hold of us, Brothers of the Serpent, at gmail.com. We have a lot of emails in the hopper, and we will be getting to those in the next shows. Sorry we didn't do any of that this week, but this was all about the interview. Also, check our website, brothersoftheserpent.com. You can find the encyclopedia, the glossary there. The snake skins was our merchandise. You can check out you can join the pyramid scheme and send us straight to pyramids by donating to us through Patreon or PayPal. Also, all of our older shows are archived there on the website, or they're archived on YouTube. You can give us reviews on iTunes. That always helps. Share the shows anywhere you can. Follow us on Twitter at Snake Bros with no vowels, SNKBRS. Join the Facebook group, which is run by Jordan. You can join our Discord chat. There is a place on the website to find the Discord chat and a connect button there, so you can join up right there. It's real easy. Don't forget about the Library of the Serpent, run by Jeff. Jeff also is the de facto administrator of the Discord chat, so be real mean
Thanks,
to
buddy.
him. Yeah, get in there and troll him real hard. And don't forget about History Shift, who makes all of our YouTube videos. You can follow him on Twitter at History Shift, or find him on YouTube as well. And he has a website, historyshift.com. Also, follow Poddoodles. He takes our podcasts and turns them into doodles, which you can watch while you listen to the show. It's fantastic. So you can follow him on Twitter or find him on YouTube. And also don't forget about Cosmographia, which we do with Randall Carlson. You can find that at Geocosmic Rex or the Cosmographia channel. And I think is the CAC 2020 Scabland still? Got a few spots left if you want to go to Scablands with Randall.
Yep.
So sign up. Get a hold of Darren at grimerica.com. And I think that's it.
Yep.
Man.
Loving every minute of it.
Yeah. This was a great show.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoy it. Good night, Adamu. Get back to work. Always have.
Always well.
Always will.
Word.
Turn it up, Scotty.